Okay, here we're looking at the original SeedStar monitor. This will be for planters that are SeedStar from 2004 until 2008. And right now we're looking at the run screen, and it's set up currently on Planter at a Glance. And Planter at a Glance, you'll notice we happen to have a 31 row split planter, and we have all these rows, all 31 rows across here. And each bar graph represents an individual row, and then we have the average population listed below that. Now, if you want to, you can go to the scan or the min-max average that we're probably used to. Hit your arrow right here, and you select population. And there's scan row or min-max like we're used to. If you'd like to go back to this Planter at a Glance, you hit the arrow, select Planter at a Glance, and now you're back to your bar graph. This is where most guys probably would run. On down, I've got my speed, which is hooked to the tractor radar. I've got an area and productivity monitor. And then down here, I've got my vac, my left vac and my right vac. From a digital, it's on a digital readout. Now, I'm on page 1 right here, so I'm going to hit page 2. On page 2, I've got my scan row and my min-max if that's what I choose to do. So if I select, I can watch one particular row if I'm having an issue. Or I can go over to min-max and it'll tell me the row that's planting the most, the row that's planting the least, and my average population. So I go back to page 1, I'm back to my Planter at a Glance. Okay, now we're still back with our original SeedStar, and we want to go through the setup. So from the run screen, I want to come down to my setup button, and I get a list of menu here, and what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the one that says Planter. The rest of them you can kind of ignore. So I hit Planter. Now, right here, if I'm wanting to switch from corn to beans, if you have a split row planter, this is currently a 31 row planter. On these, all you need to do to go from beans back to corn is select that, and now it's switched to 16 row 30 inch. If I hit it again, now it's back to 31 row 15 inch. And it takes into account, it'll turn off the rows that aren't being used when I go to the corn setting. And then when I go to the bean setting, it takes into account that I need to turn all those rows on, adjust the width for your population and things like that. Now my target population, right now I'm happen to be in beans. I just put that target population here. Let's say I'm going to plant 165. So I hit the B button to highlight it, type in 165,000. I hit the B button again, and it automatically puts in a high and low warning at 10% below for low warn and 10% above my target population for the high warn. Now my seed sensors, let's say for example that I have a row 2 is giving me an issue. I've gone back, I checked the row, it's planting just fine, so I've determined it's probably I need to replace the seed sensor, but I don't happen to have one with me. I can go in here, I can press E, and then I can select the row that's giving me an issue. And so if I selected row 1, I can turn that row off by hitting letter C. Now down here you'll notice it says rows 1 through 31 are all currently on. So I'm going to go back. This is the back button. I hit letter G. Calibrations. My radar calibration. If you have an 8 or 9000 series tractor, John Deere, you're going to want to go through the tractor. You're not going to use this. You're going to calibrate that according to the tractor manual. My speed source, I've selected radar. Now if I have a radar foul up or something like that, I can go in and change that to something different, but you're going to want to have that on radar. My vacuum sensor, I want to calibrate those at the beginning of the year, and basically what I do, select letter C here, I select vacuum sensor 1, I shut the vacuums off, it says obtain 0 vacuum and press D. So I hit D, I calibrated that one, I switch over to number 2, I press D again, and I've calibrated that one. So your vac sensors are pretty easy to calibrate. My population adjust is something you're probably not going to want to change off of 1.0. If you have questions about that, consult your local Sloan implement store and they can give you further explanation. But what that does is just fool the monitor and make it read out what you want it to. So for example, if you were planting beans and you were trying to plant 165,000 and the let's say that the monitor was showing 180, you went out and did a field check and it was in fact planting 200, but the monitor just couldn't count it all, you could fudge that number that's reading out on the monitor. Now you don't really want to do that, because if you forget, then it's always going to be in there. So we recommend leaving that on the 1.0. My planter configuration, I go in here. This is where okay, planter frame. Okay, I tell it it's a split row planter or not. So if I have a straight 16 row or 24 row planter, I'm going to say no right there, and then I want to key in my number of rows. This particular planter happens to be a split row, so I have yes selected. Now my number of rows is always going to be 31. It's always going to be 31 if you have a split row, 31 row planter. If you have a 12-23, then you're going to put 23 in there. Always put the total number of rows in here for your planter. Your row spacing, if you have a split row planter, is always going to be 15 inch. If it's a 30 inch planter, obviously, if it's a 24 row 30, it's going to be 24 here and 30 here. Again, if it's split row, total number of planter rows and 15 inch, and it will give you the calculated width. And then down below, you'll notice it says 16 row 30 for 480 inches when I'm in the corn planting mode. Okay, we're going to go back. My sensors, here's where I tell it how many sensors I have. It says number of vacuum sensors is 2, which that's correct. If I had liquid fertilizer, I may have a couple pressure sensors here as well. I'm going to go back on my letter G. Planter drive type is ground driven. If it was a hydraulic drive or a variable rate planter, this would say variable rate. And this is where I would select one or the other. I can configure the run pages. We've got them set up pretty much where they need to be. You want to have your planter monitor information, your speed, some type of productivity and acre counter, and then your vacuum at the bottom. This is your half width alarm. When you turn the half the planter off with the manual switch, you want to have an alarm telling you that, yep, you know, I've turned that half width off, and then it will let you know that. And that's my planter setup. Now we want to cover the info screens for our SeedStar monitor. And I've got some buttons over here, and I want to press the one that says info. And I'm going to go into planter. And there's some nice things in here that we can show you that'll help you save time. For example, the totals. Right here, I've got my totals. I've got area 1, area 2, and then my total area. This is the hour meter for the planter. It tells you how many acres this planter has actually planted. My area 1 is currently set to 0. So my area 2, if I wanted to zero that out, I press B, I press 0, and I hit B again, and that zeroes it out. Now it will start to count once I start planting again, so then I can reset that after every field or after every farm, or I can let it run continuously. Now the area until alarm is kind of nice. So I could type in, let's say I can type in 75 acres here. So if I've got an 80, and you know, this will tell me that, hey, I've got 5 acres to go, or maybe I only have enough seed for 75 acres, and I want it to give me a warning ahead of time, so that, you know, before I get that seed completely planted, 5 acres ahead of time, it's going to let me know that, so I can either call somebody and have them bring me some more seed. But it's something that'll just count down the acres, and then will give you an alarm once you've reached that amount. So I'm going to return. I'm going to go to calculators. Total seed estimator. If I've got a 100-acre field and I'm planting 30,000 seeds per acre with an 80,000 bag count, I'm going to need 38 bags to complete that task. So it's something you guys probably do in your head faster than you can type it in the monitor, but here's something kind of handy to have. My vacuum, if I put in there, I've got seed size of 1350, and I've got a standard corn disc in there. It tells me I need a vacuum of 11. So again, just something that, you know, you can put in your seed size, and you tell it what disc you've got, and it's something that's going to let you know kind of where your vacuum, a good starting point for your vacuum. The transmission, this is my transmission settings. So if I want to plant 31,500 and I've got the standard corn disc inserted in there, this will tell me what sprocket combination I need to use to get that amount. So I've got 31,782, it's pretty close. So I would probably want to be on the 35 and the 27. So I'm going to go back to my menu, and I'm going to drop down to Diagnostics. This is mostly going to be something that your dealer is going to use if you have issues. You know, you can check your voltages. You know, right now my battery voltage is 8.11, and some things like that, but not something you're going to probably have to use a whole lot of. The hour meter obviously tells you how many hours are on this planner. And then my configuration summary down here at the bottom just tells me that my planner, right now is currently set up on 16 rows, 30-inch spacing. It's a ground driven and it's 480 inches wide. Now I want to talk about variable rate drive with the SeedStar, original SeedStar monitor. Currently we're on our run page, and right now it's currently set to 34,000. And if I want to change that rate on the go or before I get to the field, I simply need to press letter D, and it brings up a menu that I've pre-selected. I'm going to select 36,000, and it changed my rate to 36,000, and it will instantaneously change that rate on the go. Now I want to talk about the setup of the variable rate drive. Here again, we're on our run page, so I need to go down to my setup button, and I'm going to go to the planner. And what I want to go to is my application rates. And this is where I will actually put in the rates that I want to use. Currently I have 32, 34, and 36,000 selected. Rate 4, if I want to add another one, and this is the same for all these, I simply select rate 4. I'm going to turn it on right here. My target population, let's say I want to make it 30,000. I hit letter B, and it automatically puts in a high and low warning in the monitor for me for my high and low warning. I go back. If I want to set rate 5, I hit letter F. I turn it on. Let's say I want to put in 38,000. I hit letter B. It sets it 10% high or low. And I've got all 5 of my rates set up. Now if I go back to run at that point, I can hit my button right here to select a different rate. There's all the rates that I've selected. So that's how we set up our application rates. I go back to run. If I want to go back into my setup, planner, okay, I've got my application rate set. Now one thing that's very important right here is my seed disc selection. We need to make sure that we have the correct disc selected. Right now it says small corn, and if you have the Deere Cell small corn disc or the standard corn disc, you go in here and you pick your crop. Here's the disc, standard, small. If you have the Pro Max 40 or the 40 cell disc, you need to select the large sweet corn disc, and that will show up right here because that's going to affect how fast the motors need to turn to get your population. And that should take care of the setup of our hydraulic drive. Now we want to talk about calibrating the height sensor. This is an important step if you have a hydraulic drive planner. This height sensor is the item that turns on the motors and tells the motors it's time to stop planning. As you lower the planner, the height sensor will get to a certain point and tell the planner to start planning. And when you raise the planner, it'll get to a certain point and tell the planner to stop planning. Now, the way we do that is we go into Setup, and we're going to go into Planner, and we're going to go into Calibrations. And here is my height sensor right here. I select my height sensor. Now, the way that I do that is I raise the planner all the way up, and I hit letter A. I set the planner all the way down. I hit letter B. And then what I need to do right here is I need to raise the planner where I want it to start and stop planting. Normally that's going to be with the openers about 2 inches off the ground. That's a good spot so that it starts planting on time and will stop in a reasonable amount of time. Once I manually raise the planner to that point, I hit letter C, and it will go ahead and set that for me.